The Africa Cup of Nations is well underway in the round of 16, and two teams have already gone home, and that is Namibia and Cameroon. They have already left the Ivory Coast. Nigeria and Angola are keen spectators waiting for their opponents in the quarterfinals of the tournament. So tonight, Equatorial Guinea, they are battling it out for a spot in the quarterfinals, with Egypt and DR Congo also going into battle later this evening. And to help us reflect on the week that was in the Africa Cup of Nations, we have roped in News 24 senior sports reporter, commentator and sports analyst Khanyiso Tshwaku. Khanyiso, a very good evening to you. What an eventful round of 16 we have had. I mean, going from the group stages where only 4 red cards were issued, and yesterday seeing 2 where Angola and Namibia were both down to 10 men. I want us first to talk about the teams that have already exited the competition. The Brave Warriors of Namibia, the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon. What do you make of their run and how they've exited the continental showpiece?
Look, the stakes are high, and therefore when the stakes are high, the pressure is even higher. And that tends to reflect on the mistakes that teams make, the fouls that are committed. I mean, it's odd that Angola actually, their goalkeeper being red carded, actually took one for the team. And took one that mattered, because at the end of the day, Angola had 2 half chances through Gelson Dalla. They scored, and they pretty much wrapped up the game, despite being 10 at the time having 10 men, and then that leveled out with Namibia's red card. But look, I think Namibia punched well above their weight. They did well enough to get through to the round of 16. But again, the team that is Angola is coached by Pedro Gonçalves, is a well-drilled side, one that's been together for a while, and it started to show. I think one of the key things about African Cup of Nations and continental football in particular is cohesion. If you're able to keep a talented group of players together for a while, remember that you've got 2 years between tournaments, and in between those tournaments, you've got a lot of qualifiers, whether it's AFCON, whether it's a World Cup. So you aren't always able to call on those players for the longest time. And I think an important part that one of my colleagues in Njabul and Gidi made was that the key part with the SADC teams in particular is that they have to rely heavily on homegrown talents. The South Africa, for example, I mean, the bulk of the team is picked from South African teams. I mean, you looked at Namibia had to pick from a lot of players based in South Africa and Namibia. I think the same was applicable for Zambia, with a significant amount of players based in Zambia, some playing in South Africa, with a few like Patson Daga playing in England. The same is applicable for Angola, football and aesthetics. So it's very important that those steps are taken, trusting in a coach, and I think that's where they've been rewarded. I think with Cameroon, they've reached the end of a cycle. It's unfortunate that the end of cycles, when they coincide with tournaments, teams tend to fall apart badly. And if we're honest, Cameroon did not look like a team that one deserved to be in the round of 16. They huffed and puffed through the group stages. They huffed and puffed in their draw. They look distinctly second-rate against Senegal. And I mean, they needed a significant second win to get past Mozambique, and I think it showed in yesterday's game against Nigeria. Remember that 4 shots at goal, none were on target. That is, for a country of that pedigree, for a team of that ability, not to have a shot at goal, a shot in anger, pretty much summed up the tournament. I mean, look, Nigeria would even at their best yesterday, but the thing with a team like Nigeria is that the moment they play to win and not focus on how they want to play, that's something that makes them very dangerous.
Khanyiso, you speak about it being Nablu who actually took one for the team, but there are dire consequences for actions like that. With his red card, will be unable to play this quarterfinal clash against Nigeria. Yeah. That is going to have dire consequences for the team. At that stage of the tournament, is it about taking one for the team in that kind of manner?
Look, it's either that or you consider go. So at the end of the day, he's gone for one game. It's a straight red. He's gone for one game. That's fine. That's where squad depth is also important. Where now, if you know that you have 2 very good backup goalkeepers, you know that if you lose your first choice goalkeeper, it's not a train smash. I mean, look, Nigeria, for example, will most probably start to sweat on Stanley Nwabali's fitness. because he came off yesterday. Franz Uzoho came on, but Uzoho, we know that is himself as a quality goalkeeper. I mean, if Cameroon have been debating over the quality of Fabrice Ondo and Andre Onana, but one needs to think of the fact that those are two quality and world-class goalkeepers. So I'm not sure. I'm not quite well versed in terms of who are the reserve goalkeepers for Angola. But I think if you are playing at the African Cup of Nations, I think it becomes pretty clear that you're a player who belongs at that level, and therefore, if you are called upon to be of service for your team, I think then it becomes necessary for you to be playing at a level where you are trusted to belong at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw yesterday Dominic coming in for Nablu, doing such a great job, tested, and still wasn't able to concede in that encounter. But right now I want us to take a look at the round of 16 clash that is going to take place a little later on, the DRC up against the Pharaohs of Egypt, who have won it 7 times, but now are going to have to go through these 90 minutes and maybe even extra with their star player, Mo Salah. What are their chances against this Congolese side?
I think you'd find that teams tend to play better when they're without their stars. It's not a slight on Mohamed Salah. He is a quality player. He played a significant role in getting Egypt to the previous final. But I think also now Egypt are now reliant on their domestic spine, which has in the past worked for them. When you look at the three-peat, 2006, 2008, 2010, they just called on their Al Ahly and their Zamalek spine, and that came through for them. And I think what becomes very clear is that Egypt have a crop of very good footballers. I think it all becomes now a matter of what's going on between the grey matter and between the ears, because I think what may fail Egypt now is the composure. Remember when they were outright favourites. In 2019, they were dumped out of the tournament by South Africa. When they were not quite favourites in the previous tournament, they found a way to get into the final. And I think once teams learn how to find a way, instead of just focusing on how they do things, I think the AFCON is one of those tournaments where you don't always have to play in a particular way or find a style that will dazzle everyone. You need to find something from within you, find a purpose, find a drive. And I think what makes teams like Egypt and Nigeria so dangerous is that they got into the tournament not on the best of form, but they have the quality, they have the ability within the team. But once they find the purpose and the drive, I think then they become pretty much a difficult team to stop. But also on the other hand, when you look at a team like the DRC, they're a team that's been bubbling under. They've produced a very good crop of footballers that at some point need to start stamping authority at continental level. If you look at how well a Tibu Mazembe has been playing over the past few years at CAF continental level, have those players now stepped up and show that they belong at continental level? They haven't. They won the tournament back in 1974, which remained the high point when the country was still known as Zaire. They actually ended up going to the World Cup. They have not reached those heights since. And I think now an entire generation has passed. The entire makeup of the country has changed now. And I think the current group have an opportunity to become the new heroes of this new dispensation, the post-1997 dispensation. And I think this is probably their best opportunity. Yes, Egypt remain a quality side, but also the North African teams every so often shown an infallibility in knockout rounds. Morocco, for example, Morocco may go in as favourites, but they probably carry the biggest burden of having not won the tournament for the past 48 years, if I'm not mistaken. They lost one in 1976. Yeah. But that will be talked about on Tuesday morning, Monday night, Tuesday morning, when the build-up to the game between Morocco and South Africa draws near. So when you look at it, Egypt ideally should be the favourites, but in such games, you look at the particular game that's going on now between the Guineas, Equatorial Guinea and Guinea. One would have thought that Equatorial Guinea, considering how smoothly they progressed in the group stages, would have probably had a better stamp on authority. They're now down to 10 men with what was a very measured and a very well dealt with red card. So again, Knockout rounds, knockout football is a different kettle of fish.
It is a different one. Just as we close things off, Khanyiso, should and can the likes of Percy Tau, Themba Zwane really dominate in their encounter against Morocco on Tuesday evening? Do they have the pedigree to really beat these World Cup semi-finalists and march on to the quarterfinals? Yep. What does Coach Hugo Broos need to do? What should be his game plan?
On paper, they don't.
Ooh.
But Gabe, wait, let me finish. Football's a game of chances. We saw in the Namibia game that you take your chances, it becomes a different story altogether. South Africa get 2-3 chances up front, they score all three. It becomes a different ball game. I mean, at this stage of the tournament, you worry less about how effectively football becomes Machiavellian at some point. At the stage where the end justifies the means. If you're able to get two goals early up front and then shut up shop, you don't have to worry about, you don't get brownie points for how well you played or looking for a draw. What matters is you just go through the next round. I mean, Nigeria were far from pretty yesterday, but very effective. And I think winning tournament football is about being effective when it truly matters. And if South Africa are effective when it matters, then it can be a different story. But I mean, we have to be honest though. When you look at Morocco's pedigree compared to South Africa's pedigree, it does look like a men against boys fixture. But knockout football has thrown up different equations.